Okay, inflation. Canada's inflation rate rises to highest level in a decade, 3.6%. So they're using a completely different standard to measure cases and testing. They're destroying our economy to a degree where, well, they're destroying our economy. They've removed our charter rights. Our basic rights are on hold to be deemed out and petered out or metered out at the local government's kind of discretion, it seems. And the cost of literally everything is getting more expensive. Is this good governance? How is Trudeau on track for a majority again? Who is the opposition? People have started blocking me because I'm like, if you're honestly, seriously saying O'Toole would be better, like, open your eyes. Honest. I'm not like, it's just so frustrating. Ridiculous. Anyway, Canada's inflation rate rises to highest level in decade at 3.6%. Canada's inflation rate rises to 3.6% in May, the fastest pace in a decade, Statistics Canada says. The data agency said in a news release Wednesday that the cost of just about everything is going up at a much faster pace than usual, from shelters and vehicles to food and energy and consumer goods. The cost of shelter increased by 4.2% in the year up to May, the fastest rise in costs of putting a roof over one's head since 2008, and the cost of filling a home with furniture and appliances also went up by 4.4%. That's the fastest pace of an increase for so-called durable goods since 1989. Furniture prices in particular rose by 9.8% in the past year, the biggest jump since 1982. Last month, the government slapped tariffs of up to 300% on some types of upholstered furniture from China and Vietnam. Gasoline prices have risen by 43% in the past year. Oil is at $70 a barrel. Why are we paying $1.30 a liter in Ontario, right? And I know that BC is $1.57 per liter, but $1.30 a liter, everybody. Anyway, back to this. A figure that looks especially high because it's being compared to May of last year when demand and price for gasoline cratered. But even on a monthly basis, the cost of gasoline went up in May by 3.2% compared to April's level. Gas isn't the only part of driving that's getting more expensive either, as the price of new cars increased by 5% in the past year. That's the biggest jump in vehicle prices since 2016, and the biggest reason for it is an ongoing shortage of semiconductors and a global trend that has jacked up the price of anything that uses microchips. So prices of everything are going up, and they want to make electric cars a thing because it's going to be better. You don't want your car working like your phone. Do you remember your Apple phone? Do you remember the first Apple phone you had? Or maybe the second Apple phone you had? The iPhone 3G or the 4? And halfway through the day, you were like, why is the battery out on this thing? Because the battery was tiny. It wasn't enough. And you have to charge the battery. And charging the battery takes time. And people don't understand that. You don't want your car to have to take a half an hour to charge up for like 100 kilometers or 100 miles or whatever it is that they've got. Wintertime, every time you take a trip, so if you have 3 stops to make, every time you make a stop in your electric vehicle, if it's below 0 Celsius, not Fahrenheit, then your car will lose roughly half of its range. And because of that, by the fourth trip, you have to be going home, right? And I mean, like, there are places that sell battery warmers to prevent this from happening and all sorts of other, like, mitigation tactics. But fundamentally, in a cold climate, you don't want an electric car. And the other thing is, if your electric car's battery dies, there aren't third-party people who are trying to take those batteries and then, like, repurpose them for powering fridges in some other place. Nobody's doing that. What they're doing is they're parking those cars because it costs $20,000 to replace those batteries because the cheap packs, the cheap swap-in packs, aren't available yet. And when will they be available? But it's not green, right? It's not green. They're making these cars to basically sit on a lot until it rots and then leaches power because nobody's got the ability to deal with those battery packs either for recycling. It's not monetarily viable. Not to mention the strip mining process. Regardless. Okay, let's get into governance. Apparently, according to the BBC, because you'll never see this on the CBC, a rise in threats against Justin Trudeau, police warn. Shocking. I mean, don't threaten him. Just vote him out. Just, like, demand that he step down. Demand that he be removed from power. I don't know how. because the whole House of Commons seems to be totally on board with what he's doing. They're a small pushback with that terrible free speech law, but if they get a majority, good luck, right? Good luck. It's very, very, very bad. Very, very bad. But apparently people are threatening Trudeau. And like, you're not going to get anywhere by doing that. And I have my suspicions that this is not legit. It would be used to crack down on some government described right wing, alt-right, whatever, right? And they'll use name calling, etc. But it's not true. It doesn't make it true, right? I'd like proof, please, of this, rather than the BBC's say so, right? Goodness me. Anyway, regardless, I think it's interesting that they're reporting about this.